Aggressively, I would say. I think the last 2 years have been very challenging. We need to re-engage with our members, and I think that's super important. We want to look at how the Chamber relates to its membership in the future by looking at things like social media, etc., improving our website and so on. I have to say thank you to Christian, the outgoing president, who has worked very, very hard, especially over the last couple of years with everything that's been going, looking after businesses' interests.
The Chamber's annual report this year raises a number of concerns, not least of which is a call on the government to rein in the level of recurrent expenditure and what you call the unaffordable excesses. But notwithstanding Brexit and the pandemic, you appear to lay the blame firmly on the doorstep of Fabian Picardo's government.
The higher recurrent expenditure, the higher government revenues need to be able to pay for it, and that comes from the private sector, from economic activity in general. So I think the danger is that if expenditure carries on increasing, that taxes will have to rise and government revenue will have to rise, and therefore that could make the private sector uncompetitive, and we don't want that. We want to remain competitive because in this huge world of ours we have to remain competitive. And this notion that raised by Unite that private sector wages and salaries are very low and need to come up to public sector level is just frankly a distraction for the fact that public sector wages are very high. In fact, we're only, this has been recognised by the government. Sir Joe Bassano in 2019 was saying that public sector salaries were 25% above the UK. He's now saying that they're 40% above the UK, and that these levels are unsustainable and unaffordable. Well, I think something needs to be done about this for the reasons I've just explained.
Well, on the one hand, you raise concerns about the growing cost of the public sector, but on the other hand, you criticise the government's lack of investment in the tourism sector. So what spending is acceptable and what spending isn't?
As a community, every citizen, every business needs to be proud and have pride of Gibraltar. And, the things that one sees in the street, rubbish, dog feces, things like that, it's because people are, not being what I would say responsible citizens. So, I think you wouldn't need to have Britannia cleaning more if you didn't have irresponsible citizens, fouling the street or whatever. Yeah. But I think ultimately we need to improve our tourism product. Take cruise liners. I think it's great news that we're back up to nearly up to pre-pandemic levels, and we need to congratulate Vijay for all the work that he does in this regard. But the reality is that our competitors in this region have grown, pre-pandemic, have grown their cruise calls hugely compared to us. And we need to ask ourselves, why is that the case? We need to invest in our product. We need to make Gibraltar more attractive. And, ultimately when we talk about cruise liners, they come to Gibraltar, they call it a port because they actually make money from calling at these ports.
Your report implies that there's some concern that we won't get the support of our friends in Westminster if the government isn't seen to rein in its debt. And you say you are willing to cross the VAT red line in order to help achieve that. I mean, that's quite a concession on behalf of the Chamber.
What we're saying is that if there are some small sectors of the economy that are affected by a deal because it's a negotiation and things there's give and take when there's negotiation. Well, then we may end up by having to accept that, and we will have to work with government to address the issues that arise of sectors of the economy that may be affected. But I think the important thing is to recognise that I think there will be many opportunities, I think, from a situation arising from a deal, whereas I think that not having a deal could become very disruptive, messy, and it would affect us seriously.
Well, talking about a deal, obviously it's still unclear as to whether a treaty will be agreed on Gibraltar or not, but the Chamber, in its report, believes that there is a risk that the Chief Minister will go for a short-term remedy for populist reasons. Can you explain what you mean by that? What are your concerns there?
I would say that if we do get a deal, we have to work very hard to ensure that the benefits of that deal, not just for Gibraltar but for the Campo Gibraltar, are tangible, because that is what will ensure that whatever the deal gives us is for the long term. I don't think that anybody would want to go back on something that isn't working. Certainly from my involvement in the cross-frontier group, that is what unions, businesses on both sides of the border are looking for. Well,
finally, you call on the political parties to reveal what the future holds. Are you calling for a general election?
Not at all. Just a small thing. I think that, well, it's not such a small thing. I think there are many issues that affect this community and business in particular, where our adversarial political system does not help. I think it would be far better, maybe I'm being idealistic, that if we had or we look for consensus across the political divide on issues, not the traditional issues like foreign relations or what have you, but other issues that really at election time there is contrasting views, when perhaps the better thing for the community would be that all the political parties should be aligned on that particular issue.